vector makhan khara lay sida lay mayam jini. Let's talk about types of vectors ko ahanbada equal vector si yengas zoom in torosi. When are two or more vectors said to be equal vectors? Karam kanda equal vector ne haidano idu. Example of lorge force lorge aige example sida a vector ko bama harge mana represent is force ne harsi. So 5 newton magi magnitude sina 5 ko 5 newton gi force ne harsi masi is from the people force ne harsi. Another vector b vector ko bam dare magi magnitude su 5 ne harsi newton force na masu is from the people force ne harsi. Uneasy with a vector siga b vector siga they have the same magnitude as well as the same direction. On these two vectors a vector and b vector and is a equal vector and high equal to sign of season. They are equal vectors. Diagrammatically combine lani they have the same magnitude, so the length of the vectors, their lengths will be equal. And is a I copy the okay. Magnitude mana na 5 ngatani na moibani gi sang se mana ani direction to same direction ni go east west north south iram zera. So then east west north south na harase. So they are in the same direction. This is a vector, this is b vector. So two or more vectors are said to be equal vectors if they have the same magnitude as well as same direction. So a vector is equal to b vector. They're equal vectors. Ereko ani se magnitude su mana direction su mana bagi ne su mana iris khangani ko equal vector se chita kisu yam lu ngai lete. Negative vector hai sina kaino ko if a vector ko bom dare magi magnitude na 5 newton is from the harasi b vector ko bom dare magi magnitude na say masu 5 na harase adubu mana west from the people force na harase. Diagrammatically combine lane a vector na sin harase sije a vector ne 5 newton is to west chatpo di sang badi manani mobani because kai kino because magnitude se mana parina b vector na west from zari ne they have the same magnitude 5 aduna ani se their lengths will be equal no doubt, but one is opposite to the other. Adu itari si kamani. So a vector modulus siga b vector modulus siga di mane kai kino meaning di kaino haning is 5 ngatane. This means I'm talking about 5 is equal to 5. A vector modulus of 5 ni b vector modulus of 5 ni tamane. So I can write this two are equal, or in other words I can write a is equal to b ko modulus of a vector haigira modulus of b vector haigira it's the same thing. A dang higher say b dang higher say so hybrid is same 5 equal to 5 cdi but nang na represent pada direction yarok taragati vector when kapak taragati makok sida if you indicate the vector symbol as well you cannot equate these two because mamang the high you can write this symbol only when they have the same magnitude as well as direction zu value su manar kanda so mane katang eb. So how do we write this? B vector na somna chale a vector na somna chale. So akoi da nainabu nu ngaina ba we assign a negative sign to the other pamba ma khalo nana karom da hap ke that's your choice. I'll say a is b is opposite ne or b chamane go a is b ke opposite na haigera b is a ke opposite na haigera chamane ba. So let's say a is b ke opposite ne haibagi ai sida minus na pa ai. It simply means that a is opposite of b vector, or you can write b vector se chamane go b vector se a ke opposite ni a vector ke opposite ni hai ke hai taragadi minus sum na pa kas kai deba. Either way it's the same thing nana that's your choice. Minus to kadom half ke nang apa mani right as putuna plus tok tardi left to minus loro ko left to plus tok tardi right to minus loro nang apa mani that's your choice ko. So negative vector is khangani ko negative vector is kano magnitude manaba direction opposite oiba dugi wane ko. Okay, coplanar talk pasita definition di kano vectors lying on the same plane same plane ki concept sa example am sita lorke sigi room zengo now sigi this mirror and the clock here wall clock they are lying on the same plane. Which plane? This wall. The wall is the plane here ko they are lying on the same wall, so that they are lying on the same plane. but sigi carpet siga sigi mirror siga they are lying on different planes. Amna wall de lere, amna floor de lere. So they are lying on different planes. Likewise sigi ceiling light siga sigi wall clock siga they are lying on different planes ko. Kangani go plane hari se. So if I say kakcheng ama, let's say it's going, an ant is going from this point A to this point B. So let's indicate the vector symbol of its displacement. Magi vector is point zalen hai seba. Kakcheng ama sidai na sibuk zaleba. So this is a vector hai giba. Another kakcheng ama mana som zaleba. Whatever the value, whatever the magnitude, whatever the direction, and the erosion direction pirabani ko. So this is b vector hai seba. These two kakchengs ko sigi a vector kakcheng ani se same plane the ling in the same floor is at pay worry ni khoni nai rise. Aduna a vector rasina kakcheng aham do b vector sin kakcheng ani subdigi displacement vector ne by represent rise. I can say these two vectors a vector and b vector are lying on the same plane because we are talking about two ends walking on the same floor. Walking height or okay, I don't know. Running height, I don't know, walking on the same floor. So these two vectors, a vector and b vector, are said to be on the same plane. It could be three vectors, no, doesn't matter. Another option of say this is c vector. They're all moving on the floor. So they are on the same plane. But let's say an n is moving from here to here. So this is d vector. Now this is the displacement vector of this kakcheng ko. Aduna this d vector and these three vectors a b c vector ahum sibudi they are lying on the same plane, but this and this are lying on different plane, this and this are lying on different plane, this and this are lying on different plane. Khangani ko ahum the same plane lay ahum siga c sigadi they are lying on different planes because this end is moving on the wall while these three ends are moving on the floor. They are lying on different planes ko same plane hai bathas khangani ko. Aduda koina sumai yarokani xy plane gan. Let's say this is somna sap axis na match ki koina match masiam to in season ko x axis hai somna sap pasina y axis hai somna sap pasina z axis na hai. If I say two vectors a vector and b vector they are on the same plane, they are on xy plane hai taragadi karam manoido xy plane hai taradi. Which are they talking about? The wall, the ceiling, the floor, karam manoido which wall ko or which floor dra ceiling dra. Okay, adu di xy plane hai bse no I'm lining hai taradi x axis ka y axis ka yawa plane hai taradi yung sigi wall ji yek matam da you'll be touching this x axis and y axis thing withdraw. When you draw this wall you'll be touching this edge and this at sigma time is no thing withdraw. So x axis ka y axis ka yawa plane hai taragadi this is the plane. So khangani ko hiding the a vector and b vectors are lying on xy plane hai taradi they are talking about this wall. The wall is a plane here, so a vector must be something like this. I don't know. This is in a vector and heresy, it's in a b vector and heresy. So they are lying on the same plane on this wall called xy plane height do. If I say yz plane height di karom batare. If I say yz plane yz height z height okay kana z jo hai ne yz plane out on z hai yz plane height di this is the plane y ga z axis ka yaw this is the plane y ga z ka xz chin x ni ko xz plane height di this floor is the plane. Two vectors lying on xz plane height 31 is moving like this. Say this is p vector, say this is q vector. These two vectors are lying on the same plane. Which plane? xz plane. Hi buddy, this is xz plane height 36 floors. So mana khanga da analyze to da ko adnoida asum khalaga yengo sigi ceiling ji the kari plane height xy height or xz height ra yz height I don't know, you guess as your homework. Now coplanar vectors either aduniko. Two or more vectors are said to be coplanar vectors if they lie on the same plane. If all those vectors lie on the same plane. Orthogonal hai taragadi two or more vectors are said to be orthogonal vectors if they are at 90 degree. Okay, this is a vector hai kya, this is b vector hai kya eko adudi ani si marked angle kya li 90 lebra. So these two vectors are said to be orthogonal yare ko orthogonally ki sulu ngalite 90 degree de leba haibani ko. Okay, let's talk about parallel vectors. Karam kanda vectors parallel hai. Two or more vectors are said to be parallel vectors if they are in the same direction. Say this is a vector, magnitude managira manarogra. They may have same magnitude, they may have different magnitude, doesn't matter. As long as they're in the same direction, they are said to be parallel vectors. Is magnitude manadana ye iniko and yes length se canary se. Now with this in mind, aina karigumba if you look at equal vectors here, equal vector yang matamdi they are also parallel. Got it? Parallel to it because they're in the same direction. So equal vectors are parallel vectors, but not every parallel vectors are equal vectors because they may not have same magnitude. And this magnitude mande na diagram sida b is a is b is 10 b is shorter, a is longer, so a has bigger magnitude, b is lesser magnitude, but they're in the same direction, so they are still parallel vectors but they're not equal vectors. Keep that in mind. Ko anti-parallel hai taragadi opposite ko haibadi okay. Say this is a vector, say this is b vector. Eko. Now ani se magnitude kenai ko. This could be 5 Newton east, this could be only 1 Newton west or opposite ang they may or may not have ko kari same magnitude, direction the opposite oigadaba ko. These are anti-parallel vectors. Now the saigi negative vector dung yengas ani jepet manadro negative vectors, so they are in opposite direction here. Negative vector hai taragadi they will have same magnitude, length is up maneba 5 5 ladies when you talk about negative vectors. Adu anti-parallel hai taragadi ko anti-parallel hai maming when you use the word anti-parallel vectors, they are unlike vector hai su khangnai ko moise unlike vectors hai su khangnai ko moise. Anti-parallel hai taragadi they just have opposite direction, that's it. Eko aduga negative vector hai taragadi they have opposite directions as well as equal mabani gi magnitude to manani as well as they have equal magnitude. Length hangwa manani yengbada diagrammatically aduga direction opposite oigani hangjalu sumaina ko. Concurrent hagana okay, vectors originating from the same point haiba ko. Say a vector, b vector. Let's say you're starting from Imphal, right? Imphal dagi Ukhrul dama Imphal to Senapati ama adugi magi displacement vector ne hai ahum se Imphal to Chandel ama. So this is a vector, right? Ma sina b vector, sina c vector ko. The ahum se a vectors, a vector, b vector and c vector, they are concurrent vectors na hai. They have the same initial point. And akoina vector ama yek matamda sigi makhong horpham se sina initial so haina initial point so haina khangnai aduga makok rom se sina terminal han so khangnai ko. So if they have the same initial point, haidi it's like three persons moving starting from Imphal dagi same location dagi moi ahum je start torga amana Ukhrul amana Chandel amana Moirangom chale hairse moi ahum digi displacement vector ne hairse sise ko. Then they are said to be, those vectors are said to be concurrent vectors. Concurrent vectors maming atopada same initial point le bigi co initial vectors haina su khangnai ba co initial vectors haina su khangnai. Keep that in mind. Unit vector ni hypet high graba. So unit vector high tardi any vector which has a magnitude 1 ko magi symbol di small letter amana cap ama I cap j cap k cap a cap b cap khangde caret choi cap haina su pai caret haina su pai sigi symbol se ko. Now unit vector high tardi example in mamangi video to high cap. Let's say 1 Newton is from the chapter 4 size. It has a magnitude 1. In magnitude to 1 tagadaba direction su legadaba. So any vector it is a vector. Unit vector is a vector amani magi magnitude to 1 tabi watane magi symbol di kamani ye kasmaina ko I cap j cap. Aduna aina mamangi video to high cap any vector amukin even matamda Kamana represent the magnitude times its unit vector. So unit vector has always its the vector divided by its magnitude. We do never. Yeah, ko. Kari kari chitable hawi and see hype. Let's revise. Okay, some hype. Okay, no, let's say equal vectors height taragadi. Two or more vectors, if they have the same magnitude as well as direction, magnitude to direction diagrammatically they will have the same magnitude and the sang what's up same direction. So it could be it could be it could be here. It's still, as long as you know that B is same direction, they are equal vectors. They are also parallel vectors. Same direction parallel. Negative vector size higher is two or more vectors or simply two vector higher is kaide ahum or so moi ahum the last who see what is kaide bonatiko a so another c vector must have to look kaide c is kanaga yenga no ega b ga c ga parallel tare a ga c ga negative vector tanar niko. Anyway, so two vector dan has accurate way what is it called ahum or ding out. So two vectors are said to be negative vectors if they are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Sangbudi manaba direction to opposite. Eko kuni an even matamda negative sign am yorokane symbol amadam napo nang abamdo. If you take A as positive, take B negative. If you take B positive, take A negative. And vice versa. Co-planar hagana vectors lying on the same plane. Vectors lying on the same plane the label. Orthogonal hagana vector ani 90 degree like. Then parallel hagana just same direction ki one. So not every parallel vectors are equal vectors, but all equal vectors are parallel vectors because they are in the same direction as well. Anti-parallel same unlike vector highness, unlike vectors highness, direction opposite oi bhai bane. Aman amagi opposite oi. Magnitude manaroi anti-parallel high taragati ko. Magnitude manaram tari we will say negative vector and high la ko. Concurrent hierarchy vector starting from the same point, same initial point. Unit vector D, a vector which has a magnitude of 1. Magnitude 1 taba, direction number like it. Get it go? See book If you have any doubts, another malari null vector and yauriko, but doing a toingi tame. Null or zero vector is hindukani. Masi chicken tongana takena. Kuptana take. That I will do it later on. Kona kitang concept take her talk and see him lake. Not the tarishita hizil of the ngau be. So, see book I'll see you in the next video.